wait a few minutes until people will arrive.
Okay.
So how's the weather today in London?
Now it's better, but yeah, it was very rainy. So Michał and Julia got wet. Yeah, well, now it's better. And how is the weather in Poland?
I don't really know. I'm sitting in the office since morning, so I didn't check how it looks like outside, but I believe it's as usual. It's wet and cold.
Okay.
But I don't think we have rain. It's just
Okay.
snow melting. So
Cool. So we're going to start in like 2 minutes, something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this event. A bit stressed, but yeah, this is a very important topic. Yeah, this is a technical topic, so there is a lot of pressure on you, but I know you're going to do it well. And yeah, how do you feel about the event?
yeah, I'm stressed too. But as you mentioned, it's a technical discussion, so it's the better part of it because I feel more confident in technical conversations than in the soft ones. So yeah, I think my attitude is okay-ish. We'll see how it goes during the live event. So
Okay.
do you have any viewers already? Okay, great.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, I see
okay.
that we have 14 viewers, so guess we can start.
Okay. Okay, cool. Of course, yeah, we had a lot of signups, but yeah, this is been recorded, so we can send it later. So yeah, we're starting. So welcome to our first expert session, and we created a series of sessions about Next.js hosting cost optimization. And I'm Chris. I have a technical background. I was working as a JavaScript engineer for some time, and then I created a dev shop. So I'm no longer coding, but I'm consulting companies and helping them pick right technology for the project, and also pick the good methodology to work with. And today I'm here with Jakub, my colleague from triathlon races. Hi, Jakub. Nice to
Hi,
have
everyone.
you here. Jakub is a very seasoned JavaScript developer, and around 2 years ago he got promoted in CTO role, and now is also advising building architectures and helping companies use Next.js in a proper way. Jakub, do you have anything to add about yourself?
Yeah, I think I can add that I work at PagePro for like 10 years. As Chris mentioned, I started as a JavaScript developer. Then we transitioned to React. Then we've transitioned to Next.js. So yeah, we are very focused on Next.js, on React ecosystem and Next.js. But yeah, I believe Chris will mention about it.
Yes.
In the next slide.
Yes, of course, we want to jump straight into the details, but just a short overview why we are speaking about what we're speaking. So we've been working with React for around 10 years, and last 4 years we narrowed down into Next.js. So we did a lot of projects, and also based on our information from our customers, and also we did some kind of research because we wanted to provide some high quality content about Next.js and the knowledge that is not very easy to access, on the documentation. So we wanted to focus on very specific things, and based on the feedback and also research, there was a lot of issues around hosting of Next.js. So the most of the issues were about Vercel login, about self-hosting issues, and also about the pricing. So some people told us that the hosting is of Next.js project is much bigger than hosting of their previous platform, because we are also working a lot on migration projects. And also some people told us that it's very hard to predict the cost, and they didn't know what Vercel is charging them for. So because of that, we wanted to help. So we created several sessions. This is the first one, but we also planned a session about optimizing especially Vercel costs, and also event about self-hosting. So this is the first event. This is like general overview of what impacts Next.js hosting costs. Please sign up for the next events, because you can have high quality knowledge that is exclusive and is very hard to find on the internet. So scan the QR code and sign up. Yeah, so that was the intro. As you see, we are very good at small talks and and advertising ourselves. So let's jump into what we are really good at. So technical stuff. Jakub, the floor is yours.
Yep. So I will go with this technical part. Welcome everyone. Nice to have you here. I hope if you like this first episode, just feel free to join our following events. First one will be about cost analysis and how to choose a correct hosting provider for your project. And things that will be covered today. I'll just quickly check if I'm showing the correct slides. Yeah, that's correct slides. So we will cover how we can host our Next.js application and which options we have, and then you will be able to choose the best fit for your needs. We will show you what components, what factors have an impact on hosting costs. Maybe they will be they will be more understandable for you when you will look at the invoice from Vercel, for example, or for other platform. And we will also show you the calculator that we've created, and also point out which positions matters for the cost of your hosting. And then we will follow up with the Q&A session. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to put it as a comment. And at the end phase, we will just try to answer those questions. So don't wait until the end of the event, just put it on the chat and we will try to answer it later. Okay, so if we go with the Next.js, we have multiple options to build our project. So Next.js can be built as a node server, which is the way I recommend, and it will work in the background as a server and just serve our needs. There's also option for static export, which is great. If you can do it, then your application will be probably the fastest one and the cheapest one, because it will just serve static assets. And yeah, if you can do it, then you should just do it. And the third option is to containerize your application to Docker, so you can deploy it to any hosting provider that supports Docker containers. and use it as a part of a bigger system. Because if it's just this one, I mean, if Next.js application is just your one application in your system, probably it's an overkill, and I would just recommend going with node server solution. So if we know how we can build our application, let's go with options. So if we consider hosting our next application, we have three groups that I see. One is the platform as a service, which is like Vercel, Netlify, or Heroku, or other providers that was mentioned here. There's a lot of them, but they're like one of the most popular. We have a cloud option with AWS, Azure, GCP, or any other cloud provider. And in cloud, we can go either serverless or into container solution. And we can also self-host our application in, for example, VPS, or also on the cloud platform on the EC2 or something like that. So if we consider platform as a service, they are great choice. They are mostly very oriented on specific technologies. In our scenario, it's Next.js. So they have ready-to-go solutions for the most up-to-date functionalities of specific technology. For example, some time ago, let's say a year or maybe a year and a half, incremental static regeneration was a problem for some of the, hard to replicate on the cloud, for example, and those platforms have their own infrastructure, own code or functionality inside of their platform to handle that scenario. So that's a good choice in that case. They are also built on top of the cloud, so the platform solutions are very often using the cloud solution underneath, but they just act like as a black box, so you don't need to care about what's inside, you just use it. They simplify the process of deployment and like initial time to market. So you just need to connect your repository, for example, set up some environment variables, and you're ready to see your first previews. So let's say that you work in sprints. It's very easy to like start and see results in the end of the first sprint, so the tester team can work on the tests. They prioritize the easy of usage, and they are very developer friendly, so you don't need like a DevOps to set this up. It's just like very easy to set up and follow. And they very often perform updates, so you're always up to date with the most with the technologies. So yeah, you don't need to worry about being out of date, and even if you are, they probably will send you some information that they will stop supporting, for example, Node 12 if anyone is using it. Okay, if we consider a cloud, cloud providers are like very big companies, huge companies. They have a big infrastructure and they are very flexible. So you can set anything you want, almost anything you want in the cloud. You can also build it as serverless or containers, depends on your needs. But probably you will need a DevOps for that, unless you have a knowledge about all of the services, which services to use, how to set them up. And that those two solutions, platforms and the clouds, are scalable, so they're a good choice if you want to be scaled up or scaled down in terms of smaller traffic. The cloud is also backed by most, like the giants of technology. So AWS is supported by Amazon, Azure is by Microsoft, and GCP is Google. But their focus may be not related to like Next.js, but more to like AI, which is on top of the headers in every newsletter, etc. So it's very important for them to be focused on things that matter, like everywhere, which is AI, not for specific group, which is like Next.js developers. They also provide frequent updates, and they are always up to date. So yeah, those two solutions are pretty solid. In terms of self-hosting, you can use like VPS or some, as I mentioned, EC2 or something like that. But you will need to set everything up from the scratch. They are very customizable, but very time heavy. And in terms of updating, you really need to care about that by yourself. You need to care about keeping Node.js version up to date, about security, about anything like creating pipelines, etc. All you need to do is everything that you need to do, you need to do it by yourself. And also, I believe that self-hosting is kind of a niche. So if you want to find any resources online about that, you may have some issues with that. I've partially mentioned about that, but let's focus on the pros of using platform as a service first. So as I mentioned, they're easy to use. The process of setting up everything environment is very easy. You just need to attach the repository, set up some environment variables, and you're ready to go. You don't need any DevOps experience or anything like that. You don't need to know what's underneath, what's like on which machines you are setting this up. You just set the repository and it's ready to go. As I mentioned, they're optimized for frameworks. So they're, for example, Vercel is very oriented on Next.js, and it will be, in some scenarios, it can be upfront the other providers because they know which features will be developed, and they create solutions before any other like platform can know about it. They support global edge networks, so it's like if you have a server on, for example, UK, your traffic is mostly from US, then you have two places where your content is put it on and your server is on, and just search from the closest one. So there is low latency in worldwide traffic, which is great. They have built-in CI/CD, so you don't need to spend time on setting this up unless you want some specific process, some specific steps on your pipelines. Then you need to spend some time. And they also have like features, analytics tools, and other like platform-specific things that you won't find anywhere else. Like, for example, in Vercel, we have page speed insights built in, where we can analyze the performance of our application. We can have some tools that will help us reduce latencies, etc. So yeah, they have like their own extra services that they offer you. But they also have cons in terms of platforms. They, in most scenarios, they are very affordable for small projects, but cost can escalate very much if the traffic grows, and if you don't optimize your code too well, and then a lot of people will complain that they pay for. They don't understand what they pay for because the pricing is split into specific areas, but they may not know why they're using specific features, or they may be not aware of functionality of such. I mean, the split of this bill. They have limited customization. We are so some features can be configured from the dashboard. Like we can set the maximum memory used by functions. We can set like maximum timeout for functions. We can set some environment variables. We can set domains, etc. But we can't fully customizable everything. Like if we want to have different regions for specific functions or to disable some things on specific functions, it's getting harder. So we can use some firewalls, we can use some other tools, but they need to be expanded to us, like they need to be exposed, to the end users. So we are limited to what they allow us to change. And it's understandable because they need to make sure that all of the infrastructure works. So it must be within specific range of configuration. We also are locked into a vendor. So if in the future we will try to move out of platform, as I mentioned before, they are like oriented to specific frameworks. So if we consider Next.js, and they, as some time ago, ISR was an issue. Now it shouldn't be, but it was, and that was like looking to a specific vendor because they know how to handle that. And in terms of if you want to go out of this platform, you will need to implement this solution by your own, which will cost you development time, some extra infra setup costs, etc. So you are kind of locked in. There's also a minimum price included for in these platforms. They're mostly based on the seats used. So if you have no traffic, you still need to pay. And support can be a problematic because if you have some issues with their platform, you rely on the support to answer you, and the support is very often overhand, and you need to wait for like 2-3 days for a response. Maybe you have a meeting, and this meeting have a limited time, and it's like a normal, but still, if you have issues, you are like, you can be blocked.
Yes, because support is mainly for enterprise clients where you have SLA with some specific time responses, right?
Yeah, exactly. But in the free, if you don't have enterprise, you also can ask support, but you have less time to with them, and you don't have specific range in your calendar that you can contact them. So
Yep.
Okay, let's go to cloud hosting. The benefits of cloud hosting is you can go either serverless and containers. It's up to you how you will set up this infrastructure. If you already have all of your infra set on the containers, then you can just create a new container with your application, and it will act as a part of the service. And you can also go with serverless and set all of your services by yourself, and they will be scalable as the traffic goes up or down. They gave you the flexibility, so you can choose which services you will use, how you will configure them, and basically that. But it's a lot. As I mentioned, they're scalable. They have a very large amount of services in their ecosystem. So if you go for a cloud, you can, if you need, for example, mailing service, you can just click it out from the dashboard and add that to your project. If you need some notification system, that's also available. Like any service that cloud can provide, you can just add it to your application, and it will be all in one place. And the global reach is the same thing as the edge, because they can you can set up the services in specific region or also as an edge, so they will work global wide. they also have cons like complexity of the setup. You need a lot of expertise to configure and manage the systems, and they also slow down your initial setup of development. They have steep learning curve. You need to learn a lot to be able to set it up correctly. You need at least basic knowledge about AWS ecosystem, the services that you want to use, and how they will be calculated in terms of costs. You can also be locked in by a DevOps. What I mean is a specific scenario where your DevOps will set everything up, but won't leave you with some specific README or instructions how to manage this system. And then you will, like, if you want to copy the infrastructure to another project or even extend it or change something, you may have some issues. Cost management is about, like, if you set something incorrectly, the bills may be high, and you may not know how to change that. And the overhead is like maintaining security, compliance, and system updates is partially on your head and partially on there. We also have a self-hosting, but I will spend the least amount of time on this because, as I said, it's rather a niche, and I won't recommend that solution unless it's like your hobby project or something like that. They allow you full control over everything. You just get access to a machine and you just set all of your applications inside of it. The very huge pro is that they have fixed costs. So each month you can predict the costs of your application maintenance. And the independence they gave you is huge because there's no limitations for you. You just can set anything that you want, any security patterns, any background processes, anything that you want to set is under your control. The cons of self-hosting is like high maintenance time. You need a lot of time to set it up, to maintenance that, to keep it up to date, and to create backups and security patches. Everything is on your head, so it's the highest maintenance time from all of these three. You may finally occur the scalability challenges because all of scalability is mostly by upgrading the components of your machine, and the time intensivity. They are time intensive, as I mentioned in the first point. Like high maintenance costs includes a lot of time, and additionally, you need a lot of skills to be able to even set it up to maintenance and to make it correctly. So, yeah, you want to say something, Chris? Or
yes, I'm thinking about analogy for those three areas. So we have PaaS, cloud, and self-hosted. So for me, PaaS is like Tesla with autopilot. Cloud is a sports car, and self-hosted is like classic car. So PaaS and Tesla. So you have the initial cost, but everything is automated. So you're just focusing on driving to the destination. If you have cloud, it's like sports car. So it's very powerful, and it's also you can customize it, but you need a good driver like me. And you have self-hosted. So this is like classic car. So maybe you can get it in a lower price, but you need a driver and you need somebody to maintain it. So you might need a mechanic for that. So yeah, I think that might be a good analogy for those three types of hosting options. And yeah, the next part is about costs, right?
Yeah. Let me just quickly check at the time. Yeah, I need to speed up as I see that Yeah, I need to speed up as a lot of time we spent on this, and we need to cover most important topics. So I will just quickly sum up best use cases for those three solutions. So for the platform as a service, I recommend to use it for small to medium projects, enterprise projects in the first phases. Maybe if you can get good quote and good pricing, then you should follow up with them, but that's something that you need to contact platform. And for startups, and also if you don't want to spend thousands of dollars on setting up infrastructure. Why thousands? Because I assume that DevOps costs is like 50 plus 100 of dollars per hour, and you need at least 10 of hours to set it up correctly. So in terms of platforms, you save this initial cost. Best use cases for cloud is like medium to large projects. Also, if you have a DevOps in your team, or you already have infrastructure set in this cloud, and you just extend the services with the Next.js applications. And also, if you need to have a full control over what services you will use and how you will use them. And best use case for self-hosting is rather small projects, maybe mid projects too, but you need to, like, if you have a lot of knowledge about servers and you don't trust other providers, or you want full responsibility about the server, when you need full control, and if you want fixed predictable price. So if you have any questions to this, please leave a comment just as a reminder, and we are smoothly going to what really drives your hosting costs. And I probably won't surprise anyone, but the most important factor is the visits per month on your website or your application, because no matter which option we will choose, we'll always pay more if we'll have more traffic. Every user will use specific amount of resources on every visit, and every unique user will need to initially get those resources to their local machine, and then they will be served as cached, and they will be served faster. But yeah, in general, visits per month is the most important factor. The other very important factor is data transfer, as most of the, I mean, not most, but every like the platform solution, the cloud and the cloud will the pricing of those solutions will be related to how many data will be transferred from your ecosystem to the end users. And for example, if you have a lot of assets, or your website is JS heavy or CSS heavy, or every factor that needs to be transferred matters. So it's very important to keep your app as small as possible. And in terms of JS, of CSS, of all of the assets, fonts, and also HTML returned, and also about the amount of requests that you will trigger on every user visit on the page. The third factor is the app complexity, because in Next.js we have a lot of freedom. We can select which pages will be server-side generated, which pages will be server-side rendered, how we will refresh those static site generated pages with ISR, how many builds we will trigger, and other factors. Like API routes and middlewares, everything matters. We also pay for resources runtime, so we need to optimize our functions, our code, to be as fast as possible. So we will reduce the runtime of our functions, of our build times and everything to just pay less. Regions, because in cloud solution, we can choose like specific regions, or we can also go with edge. It matters on the pricing because edge is in general more expensive. And also caching, because if we cache some data, we always reduce the amount of executions on our server. So if we cache some data, we don't need to execute our functions to get the response, but we can respond with direct asset or direct data from our functions. So if we consider those three solutions, what differences we have in terms of the things that I mentioned here is common for all of them. And in terms of differences between those three things is like they all have their own pricing models. So it will be a little differences in costs for all of them. So for example, in platforms, you may have different pricing for function executions than in the cloud. They all have different benefits because platforms, as I mentioned, have some built-in optimizations or built-in functionalities. So we can have like automatic pipelines set up, security covered, and analytics implemented. And yeah, that can count as benefit. They all have different initial costs because in platforms, we don't really need the DevOps. In terms of cloud or self-host, we need some time to set it up correctly and be efficient. And they all provide different features which we will pay for. Chris?
Yeah, so thanks, Jakub. So Jakub explained the direct costs. So for me, direct costs are the costs that you can easily spot on the invoice from the hosting. And the indirect costs are other costs that are not on the invoice, but they are very important. So it's mainly, operational costs. So this is about security efforts, about setup and maintenance, about development experience and training needs. So, for example, if you have a PaaS solution, you have security built in, but in other options like cloud or self-hosting, you need to invest some time to comply with security. Each of the options has different level of involvement. So what's important here also, I think also it wasn't mentioned today, Jakub, but the development experience, because we can have great hosting, a great hardware and infrastructure, but if it takes ages to do the deployment, maybe this is not the optimal way of working. So the development experience and also the knowledge that needs to be transferred or maintained in the team. So when we are building projects, we are trying to have one team that can work on every part of the application, including the server. So this is also something that you need to consider when you're choosing the hosting options. So not just what you have on the invoice, but what else impacts the total cost of managing the project. We saw some question in comments, so thanks for the questions. Please add another questions in the comments, and we'll get back to it on the end. Jakub, so now it's about estimating the costs.
So sorry for taking so much time about explaining the possibilities. I guess that you've came here for this part, and let's move on. Now I want to focus on specific scenarios. So we'll consider not consider, but we will focus on how to estimate cost for Vercel and AWS for our Next.js application, because I need to have some specific pricing to be able to calculate it. So we'll use Vercel and AWS as an example, and then you can just follow up with the same pattern. It's the same idea for every other platform or every other cloud solution. Okay, so in Vercel, we have multiple factors that counts to our pricing. One of them is seats, is the one that I especially don't really like, because we need to pay for each seat that have access to Vercel dashboard, the Vercel project, and we need to pay $20 for every seat. And yeah, that's something that I don't really like, because even if we don't have traffic, we need to pay for like $100 per our project, just because we want to give access for 3 of our developers there. We also pay for function invocations. Invocations is the number of times that our server, it counts only for serverless functions, are called or triggered. It's measured in millions, so we have a lot of them. We also have function duration, so the time that this function is computing. There is a pattern how to calculate it. Let me see if it's counts in gigabytes per hours, so we can reduce this costs by limiting the amount of memory, for example, that is available in the function, and also by speeding up our functions. So it's not a good pattern, and maybe not a good pattern, but it would be a good way to reduce this cost if we won't do async functions, for example, in our serverless code. So we won't fetch too much data from the outside, rather than just directly calling the database, which is much faster. The function execution units is also calculated by some pattern. It's measured in millions of executions, and it's also like countable for serverless functions. We have edge middleware invocations, which is like every invocations of our middleware. Middleware is called on every request, unless we we can add a matcher in our middleware, which will indicate which paths should trigger the middleware. I recommend to do it because we can reduce the amount of invocations this way. And yeah, we also pay for edge requests. Edge requests is all of the requests that are done inside of our Vercel edge network. It's measured in millions, so we have a lot of them in our free tier, but yeah, it counts the assets, pages, anything that is like inside of our application. Fast data transfer is the amount of assets transferred across the edge network, and fast origin transfer is the amount of data fetched from our functions, mostly like data that is returned from our code. So they are the main factors for Vercel. If we consider AWS, I've put here the sample architecture from Open Next page, which includes the CloudFront as our CDN, S3 as our assets management place, Lambda functions to execute our code, and we will focus only on the core functionality from this diagram, because not everyone is using ISR or warmer functions. So in AWS, it should be much simpler to calculate the cost because we pay for specific resources and specific like time that we use those resources for. So we will pay for CloudFront requests, we will pay for Lambda's execution time and also the amount of executions. we need to pay for S3 requests and the size of the assets that we keep them there, and also for the DB operations. So CloudFront will be our CDN that will be in front of our application. Lambdas will execute all of our code, and S3 will keep the static content, also cache data from our functions, and DB will manage the cache if it needs to be updated or not. So in general, I just pointed out the most important things. Now I want to show you how you can easily use our calculator to estimate the costs. Just want to point out that there is not a magic tool that will handle everything for you. There is also always some factors that won't be included in this calculator, and it's also like there's a lot of factors during your application may have impact to that will change all of the pricing. Like let's say that your applications is very assets heavy, then your calculations will be very much different than someone who have like small amount of assets but a lot of function executions. So I recommend, in terms of Vercel, for example, to ask for a quote them, and they will like get back to you, or you can just use my patterns or my example of how to calculate the cost. And the same for AWS, you can click through the calculator available on their panel. But yeah, I hope that I've introduced you to this topic, and now we can go to estimation. Let me change the screen. Yeah, so I've prepared a calculator where you can put your values on the first page, and it will recalculate the estimation costs of Vercel and AWS based on these things that I pointed out before, like function execution, edge executions, the assets, etc. So you just need to fulfill this form, which is like users with access to platform. It's mostly for Vercel because, as I mentioned, you need to pay for seats. So you need to point out how many users will have access to the platform. You need to fill how many visits per month you will have on your application. In this scenario, I've put like 900,000, but you can put your estimation here. It's the most important factor because it's used in almost all of the calculations. We also have cache hit ratio, which is like 15% of our requests will be served by CDN cached. So we will only execute 50% of, like, let's say, requests. So it's up to you how many of them can be cached and how many of them can be like statically generated instead of being invoked on every request. You also need to fulfill the data transfer size. It's like average page size in megabytes. So you need to estimate how much data will be required for your initial page load. It's like HTML, CSS, JS, font sizes, etc. There's also an option to, in some scenarios, like here, we can have a route that, for example, on your homepage, you will call extra API routes, for example, on the client side. So you will invoke extra functions per user to be able to like serve your page. Like if you have a dashboard, if you have a page where you have a section with live data and you want to present it for your users, or you have, for example, some forms on your site where a user needs to fulfill them. There's also average function execution time, which is like how long your functions will execute for. It includes like how long the route will be generated or how long your API routes will execute the code. There's also an option for DevOps hourly rate where you can put it, and it's included in the initial cost of the application. So as you see, I have pre-populated those fields, and if I go to Vercel cost calculator, there's a note on the top. It doesn't include ISR and extra services, so you need to calculate them manually. But as you see, it contains all of these values, but calculated within specific pattern. If you want to see the pattern, it's below, and there's also some additional information about what counts for this value. And on the top, you have this is the thing that is most important. It's like the estimation of costs for your application using those data from the first tab. So if you change, for example, the amounts of visits to 50,000, let's say, which is not much, the costs will decrease by a lot. And as I pointed out, the pricing that I don't like specifically is the cost per seat, is like 90% of our monthly cost in this scenario. If we switch to AWS, we can see that it's much cheaper, but it has much bigger initial cost setup. So those values here is something that you shouldn't change. It's the pricing from the website, and also this one is the price for from the website. If the pricing will change within their system, you probably need to update it, but in general, it should be fixed. And here you have the column with the estimation of how many resources will be used. This is how many resources will be used if we include the free tier. So we remove the cost of the free tier, and then we have the final cost of our application. In this scenario, it's like those two values don't have the free tier, so those 4 values don't have free tier. That's why the monthly cost is like 50 cents. But probably you can configure those things better in the AWS, and it will probably match the free tier. And yeah, the same thing for Vercel. So those are the things that I mentioned before, which have impact on our estimation. This is the estimation of usage of those services based on those variables. Then we have the estimations that excluding the free tier, and we have the final cost of our application. So yeah, the link to this tool will be shared with you. And if you have any more questions, just feel free to ask us. Probably you will have questions when you will try to use this tool, and just feel free to message us to get more details if it's not clear enough. Let me switch to the presentation. And yeah, let's go to the Q&A section.
Okay, so we had several questions. One is, what is the impact of my code on the hosting cost? Is it big?
Yeah, I think that I mentioned about it during the presentation. How your code will be implemented has a huge it's a huge factor in the hosting cost, because if you will not use caching correctly, you will use extra resources during the function executions, for example. If your JS and your CSS and your initial page size is not optimized, you will pay a lot of money for transfer. And yeah, there's a lot of factors that have direct impact on the hosting cost. And actually, the Vercel costs will be the next topic that we will handle during this series is about optimizing Vercel platform, and it will include a lot of code tips that can help you with that.
Okay, great. So as I understand, basically, if you design your code correctly, it will save hosting costs in almost all of the platforms and solutions we saw. And in the next webinars, we were going to show some examples, but our focus will be on Vercel, but you can use it as a set of best practices, right? For Next.js development.
Yeah.
Great. Next question is, do I need any extra tools to set up the Next.js app on AWS?
It's a hard question, but in general, I recommend using tools like OpenNext, which I mentioned here, which will help you with creating an output that will match the AWS infrastructure. There is also some tools that will help you deploy your code into the infrastructure, like SSR. If you combine SSR and the SST and OpenNext, they can be very helpful with deploying your Next.js application in AWS.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, how do the size of my code influences the hosting costs?
I believe it was already displayed, or it was a different question.
It was the previous was about impact of the code, and this is the size of the code.
So I accidentally answered this question too, because I mentioned that if you want to optimize your JavaScript output, bundle sizes, etc., it will have negative impact on your cost because you will need to fetch more resources on every request. So it matters.
Okay, great. We have some comments about the tools that you shared. So
great. I'm glad that it.
Of course, this is the first version of the tool. We usually have some internal calculators when, for example, client wants to migrate from different platform to Next.js, and we're deciding on the cost because we are estimating the CMS cost, the infrastructure cost, all the tool sets. So this is the first time that it became public. So please feel free to submit feedback, and we are happy to update it. So you will have the Google link to always the latest version of the calculator. So it's going to be updated.
Yeah, but if you want to use it, you need to copy that, and then you will be able to modify the values because it has the read-only access.
Yeah. Cool. And this cute cat is asking us when will be the next event. I think we don't have a strict date, but it should be in coming weeks. So of course, we are going to notify you. So if you scan the code and you are on our list, you will get the recording of this webinar. You will get the calculator, and you're going to get updates about new dates.
Yeah, but the next event is like about 3 or 4 weeks from now. So we are aiming for one event per month.
Okay, I think we are almost at the time. So we're waiting for the last question. And if we don't have... we have the question. At what traffic rate is worth to switch to AWS?
Okay, it's a hard one. Again, there is no golden rule for that. It depends on your application requirements mostly. It depends which resources you will use most, but in general, you can use AWS even if you don't have huge traffic, if you want to pay only for usage. But like the difference in like mid-size project will be visible in, let's say, over 1 million of views per month is like the margin where you need to when you should consider other hosting options probably.
I think maybe it could be, maybe the traffic is not the good metric to switch between the platforms. Maybe the better metric would be, how much you are currently paying, for example, on Vercel, and if the bill is big enough,
for resources,
yes, you can check other options.
But that's according to this, it's not like a sign that you need to go out. It's a sign that you need to optimize your code probably, unless you already did that, and you are sure that you want to migrate. Then
yes, but then you know that there is something that you can optimize. You can do something with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're over the time. So thank you, Jakub, for sharing those informations. I hope it was very useful for you. And please watch our next events. And we're very happy that you joined today. And all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You. Have a good one.
Bye.